Michel, President von der Leyen, Secretary General Guterres, Managing Director Georgieva, honourable members of European Parliament and national parliaments, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to thank you warmly for inviting me to speak to you today. It's a privilege to be able to talk to the citizens' representative at the heart of European democracy. Events like this one allows us to consider national debates in discussions about our common challenges as Europeans. For all of us, the past year of the pandemic has been an extraordinary challenge. And at all levels, the public policy response has been truly impressive. National responses have spearheaded the policy effort, with fiscal measures amounting to, on average, 4.5% of euro area GDP. Yet the response to this crisis stands out from previous ones in that the level of policy alignment achieved has been truly unprecedented. The strength of Europe's crisis response has crucially depended on the strength of national and European responses across all areas: monetary, fiscal, supervisory and regulatory. But the pandemic is not over yet. Policy alignment that I've just described will continue to be imperative for what lies ahead. So what I would like to do briefly, because I know that there's a long list of very eminent speakers before me and you probably have had a lot of speeches so far, but I'd like to look at just ways in which our policies can keep reinforcing each other in addressing two common challenges. From all corners of Europe, we're facing it. One, shielding the economy, and two, subsequently transforming the economy. Let's look at the shielding first. While people are drawing hope from the start of vaccination campaigns, the first challenge, shielding, calls for us to continue to bridge the gap until widespread immunity is achieved. So vaccination, vaccination, vaccination. Across Europe, people are still grappling with the economic and social consequences of the pandemic. And it is still highly uncertain how the next stages of the pandemic will unfold, as President von der Leyen just indicated. In this context, our pandemic emergency purchase program has been tailored to the pandemic, helping to stabilize markets and ease our policy stance to support the recovery. It will continue to be a crucial tool. The PEP, that's how we call it, the PEP envelope of 1,850 billion euros gives us considerable firepower and flexibility in conducting purchases. Moreover, our targeted longer-term refinancing operations, that we call TLTROs, will remain an attractive source of funding for banks, supporting the flow of credit to households and to firms. SMEs tend to benefit disproportionately from abundant and cheap credit, and smaller firms have been able to borrow at the lowest rates ever recorded. The ECB will continue to support all sectors of the economy by preserving favourable financing over the pandemic period. As it has done ever since the start of the crisis, we will continue doing it. This commitment implies looking at indicators along the whole transmission chain of our monetary policy, from risk-free rates to governments, borrowing costs, to capital markets, to bank lending for firms and bank lending to households. Within the broad-based set of indicators that we monitor to assess whether financing conditions are in fact still favourable, risk-free OIS rates and sovereign yields are particularly important because they are good early indicators of what happens at downstream stages of monetary policy transmission, since banks use those yields as a reference when setting the price of their loans to households and to firms. Accordingly, the ECB is closely monitoring the evolution of longer-term nominal bond yields. The overall policy mix, however, remains essential. While the pandemic persists and lockdowns and heightened uncertainty continue, firms and households will only be able to take full advantage of those favourable financing conditions if national policy measures are deployed to help monetary policy unfold its full potential. By continuing to take the lead in protecting the firms and sectors most exposed to the crisis, fiscal policy can help brighten economic prospects for firms and households, thereby strengthening monetary policy transmission. Let me give you an example. The ECB's Consumer Expectations Survey demonstrates it. People who consider government support to be more adequate display less precautionary behaviour, and those people are in turn more likely to respond to favourable financing conditions and increase their consumption. In the euro area, the budget balance is expected to be minus 6.1% of GDP in 2021. With monetary and fiscal policies working in tandem, we hope that we finally cross the bridge and reach the other side of the pandemic on solid ground. So let's turn to the transforming of the economy. Because that challenge will arise as the economy gradually reopens, and it will be quite a different one. It won't be about returning to the pre-pandemic status quo. It will be about bringing the economy rapidly back to potential while using the thrust of the recovery to transform our economies. And the focus will then be on reducing the damage caused by the pandemic, such as permanent job reductions, which 1 in 5 firms are considering, fixing those crushed dreams that young people had before the pandemic. At the same time, it will be crucial to harness the potential offered by the pandemic, which has spurred the multi-year leap in digital progress and has brought a new focus on sustainability. Digital and green technologies present massive possibilities for more vibrant, inclusive and sustainable growth. In the energy sector alone, scaling up green investment to the necessary levels could create an estimated 1.1 million jobs across Europe by 2030. Europe is leading the way in addressing this double policy challenge. You just heard it. Its next generation EU that I call NGU, this recovery package is designed to support demand today and generate growth potential tomorrow through investment and through reforms. And indeed, NGUs is expected to provide on average around 1% of GDP in grants and loans per year over the next 3 years, while committing 37% of funds to green investment and 20% to digital, as you just heard from the President of the Commission. Next to EU policies, national policy action will have to play a vital enabling role in smoothing the transition and promoting change. First, by ensuring that NGU funds can be fully operational when the decisions on own resources are ratified in all member states, which in many cases involves national parliaments. Second, by creating the right economic environment to boost the impact of NGU. And that means improving the quality of government spending and ensuring that NGU is firmly rooted in sound structural policies conceived and implemented at the national level. If used for productive public investment, NGU funds could increase real output in the euro area by around 1.5% of GDP over the medium term. So these must be priority areas if we are to reform, modernize, and come out of this crisis on the other side of the bridge with renewed vigor. So let me conclude by emphasizing that all of us, across all policy levels, must pull together to meet our shared challenges and ensure that Europe can emerge stronger from the pandemic. Today is the 22nd of February. It is the birthday of Lord Robert Baden-Powell, the pioneer of Scouting. The Scouts' motto, toujours prêt, be prepared, is apt for us too. For Europe to be prepared and bring about positive change in 2021 and beyond, national and European decision makers need to uphold our team effort. We can be ready together. The ECB will continue to play its part, I can assure you. Thank you.
Grazie, Presidente.
Thank you very much, President. We've heard some very important contributions about the instruments that have already been enacted and the responsibilities and challenges it faces in the near future. As President Lagarde told us, we need to be prepared. And the best way to be prepared is to not stop. As you'll have heard from our speakers this afternoon, the recovery is an uncertain one, and it will be an unequal one. It will more profoundly affect people's lives than we ever could have thought. So we cannot stop our efforts. We have to ensure that this year of lessons learnt from COVID could be the basis for a profound transformation of our economy, and certainly not some kind of turning back the clock. I'd like to thank all of the presidents of the institutions for their contributions. We have been able to mobilize and even invent instruments. We haven't stopped, but now we need more inventions and more imagination. Well, we're concluding this first panel. I'll give the floor to President Ferro Rodrigues, and then I'll invite the Vice President of the European Parliament, Dita Charantsova, to get ready to chair the second panel, which will be on the preparation of national recovery and resilience plans as state of play.